But you cannot stand on a public platform and be seen to be discriminating against a section of Kenyans on account of how they voted in the last elections. So I said while I was in CIA yesterday, Juzi, that governor must be called to order. And if for sure he's pursuing some agenda, which we don't know, then that agenda is contrary to the national interest, Honorable Speaker, and the Constitution, of course. So I want to stop at that for the time being. In the fullness of time, I will be coming back with a more comprehensive action. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. I don't want to escalate that. Majority Leader, you should also inform that governor that the sugar industry's debt write-off was sanctioned by this House. It was not an executive order out there. It was sanctioned by the representative of the people, including MPs from his county. Yes, Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, I agree with you that indeed the debt waiver for sugarcane farmers was never sanctioned by the executive. It is this House. And therefore what the governor for Nyeri was doing was also casting aspersions on our mandate, our constitutional mandate, as the House that did approve that waiver. And more importantly, Honorable Speaker, you know, Honorable Speaker, as the leader of minority says, all Kenyans are taxpayers. And once elected, Honorable Speaker, even myself in my own constituency that's quite cosmopolitan, but the bulk of my constituents speak the Kikuyu language. But I know there is a good number of constituents in Kikuyu who do not understand my native language. And Honorable Speaker, whether we pride ourselves as a community that perceives itself to be the most endowed with wealth, whether we lie to ourselves today that we are the most populous, even with our one wife and one man. And I know the Honorable Junet and his community in Mandera have one man, 4 wives, minimum 7 children. I have 2 to 4 children, Honorable Speaker. We must bear in mind that as leaders, we are leading a nation of many communities, Honorable Speaker. Communities, whether we perceive them as taxpayers or not, they contribute to our national well-being. Honorable Speaker, when I listened to the governor for Nyeri saying that the people of Nyeri never took even a piece of the sugarcane whose debt is being waived, Honorable Speaker, and saying that the people of Bungoma never voted as much as the people of Nyeri voted. You know, it's so embarrassing, Honorable Speaker, that the governor of Nyeri does not even know that the people of Bungoma voted for Kenya Kwanza an equal amount of votes as the people of Nyeri voted for the Kenya Kwanza government. The difference between the votes of in Kenya Kwanza between Bungoma and Nyeri counties does not exceed probably 20, 30,000. They are all in the 200s plus. And Honorable Speaker, when a government is elected, it is never elected to serve those who voted for them. How do I know as a member of parliament in Kikuyu who voted for me, who did not vote for me? And Honorable Speaker, that is why at times we had difficulty, many of us, in engaging in a shareholder debate and shareholder discourse in terms of how we manage our government, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, let me just say, I don't know whether we are not at liberty to discuss the conduct of the governor for Nyeri in this House without a substantive motion. But I would want to appeal to the governor of Nyeri, whether you are speaking for yourself, whether you have been sent to say those things by somebody, irrespective of what position that person holds in government or in Kenya, please respect other communities. Please appreciate that sugarcane farmers in Kenya deserve debt waiver just like coffee farmers deserve the coffee waiver that we have given them in this budget and in previous budgets, Honorable Speaker. those of us who come from the sugar belt. And Honorable Speaker, you know, when you listen to that governor speaking about the sugar belt and imagining that Bungoma County is the entire sugar belt in Western Kenya, he does not know even the sugar companies that were to benefit from that debt waiver. 90% of them are in Nyanza, not in Western Kenya. Only 2 sugar companies, Mumias and Zoia, are in Western Kenya. The bulk of these other companies, whether it's Chemelil, Muhoroni, Sony Sugar, they are in Nyanza, and the people of Nyanza deserve. They deserve to benefit from taxpayers' money, Honorable Speaker, just like the people of Kiambu deserve to benefit from the coffee debt waiver. The people of Nyeri, the people of Kirinyaga deserve. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, let us as leaders, and that's why, Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, I said here last week, and I know what I said here when I quoted a quote, saying that you cannot build a kingdom when you are fixated with attention from the village. I know there are those who took it out of context to try and mobilize a hate campaign. But I call on us as members of the National Assembly to put the nation ahead of our communities, to put the nation ahead of our parochial self-interest, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, as I condemn the actions and the words of the Governor for Nyeri, Honorable Speaker, and I will indeed be writing to him to officially inform him some of these things that have been said here in writing for his record, so that as he exits office, he may travel a bit around the country, just tanga a bit and engage in a bit of political tourism to understand other people around the country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to support what the Majority Leader is saying, because personally I was there when we were doing campaigns in Bungoma with the President. And even the time the President went to Bungoma and Migori to waive those debts, I was there. So what I want to ask my brothers and sisters in this house, the Nyeri people are innocent, and I want to apologize on behalf of Nyeri people. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Rosa.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Junet did ask a very pertinent question about whether we could receive the report in good time to enable us debate. I'd like to request that could the Majority Leader give us the assurance that we will receive that in time instead of going into politics. This politics does not answer that question.
He already gave that assurance, Rosa. Maybe you are not listening. He said the report is likely, and I'll direct him to ensure it is tabled by Tuesday.
Mr. Speaker, I think it was overclouded by all these political statements, which I don't think were part of what Junet had asked. Thank you much, Honorable Speaker.
Didymus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want also to agree with the leader of minority on what he has said. And Honorable Speaker, if you look at our Constitution, anybody who engages in utterances that are against national values, that are against the national interests, anybody who makes utterances that appear to divide this country along how people voted, the tribal lines, those are grounds for impeachment, Honorable Speaker. I want to make it clear here, Honorable Speaker, that the utterances by the Governor of Nyeri on what he said is clearly true, that that man is not fit to hold office. And I want to call upon ESTC to begin the process of removing him from office, because every Kenyan requires development. Wherever you come from in this country is not a criminal offense. The tribe that you are is not a criminal offense. And the governor for Nyeri is not fit to hold public office. And the grounds for removing him should begin immediately today. They even ought to have begun yesterday, Honorable Speaker. I support.
Members, I don't want us to escalate this. I want us to. Yes, Farah Malim, I see you
Yes, Mr. Speaker,
agitated.
I want to support the majority leader in his statements. Mr. Speaker, me and you have been around for the longest. And you remember how the problems in DRC started when Mobutu Sese Seko was the president. He tried to victimize a small minority who are pastoralists called Banyamulenge. Banyamulenge. And there were hardly 1 million of them in a nation of over 60 million. They took up arms because nobody would accept to be a second-class citizen in his own country. DRC has never seen peace since then. It doesn't matter how big your numbers are. If the smallest community in Kenya decides I'm having a road deal and I'm going to destroy this country, they have the capacity to do it. Let us keep our unity as a nation. We have the most beautiful country in the world. The diversity is our strength. It's not supposed to be our weakness. When a very senior government official says all politics is local, what are you talking about? And you want to be the president of this country? Who is going to allow you to be the president of this country? Because you're basically saying that I will only take care of my small village up there. Honorable Ichung'wah, you have done us proud, and many like you. Let us keep the unity of this country for God's sake and not listen. And the National Cohesion and Integration Commission should be doing its job. It should be doing its job very well. We went close to having a collapsed state, Mr. Speaker, in 2007. Me and you were in the parliament that time. 2008. We avoided that calamity and complete dissolution of the Kenya government because many people came from all over the world to come and assist us. We have to learn from the mistakes we made in the past and never try and do it again. We've seen what happened in Rwanda. They tried to eliminate completely a small minority of Tutsis who are 15%. But they came back and they're ruling that country for 30 years and they'll rule for another 50 years. Nobody gives you a guarantee because you have the numbers that you're going to take over a country. No. Let us protect our unity.
Honorable members will stop here. I want to laud the majority and minority leaders for displaying patriotic thinking, and members out there. Order. Order, Kasheri. Kasheri, take your seat. Members out there, it is not a Nyeri problem, it's an individual. And Mukami has said as much. Members out there, whether you're a governor or whoever you are, members who are displaying grandiose paranoia in the conduct of their public affairs will be called to order. They will be called to order, and this House has unlimited authority through your committees to summon any such errant characters, whoever they are, and tell them that as a House of the representatives of the people of Kenya, you will not sit and watch any reckless conduct that can bring disorder in this country. And I salute you, majority and minority leaders. Lead the House in the manner you have shown and call out anybody who is errant in their conduct. Thank you. Jared?
I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And whereas you have closed that debate, I would want to take a tangent from what both the majority and minority leaders have talked about, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we have lately seen discordant voices, especially emanating from the presidency. And the presidency is composed of the president, the deputy president, the cabinet, and those others in that chain, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, whereas I would be least concerned about what happens in Kenya Kwanza, but when these matters have potential to create disunity in our country, then I will be very much concerned, Honorable Speaker. In Bungoma, where you played a very good host to the most successful Madaraka days ever in this country, I did realize, Honorable Speaker, that 40 minutes later, when the president had sat down, the deputy president showed up. And the president of the Republic of Kenya had to welcome his deputy, which is totally a break from tradition, Honorable Speaker. On Sunday, during an event of the Akorino brothers in Nakuru, the deputy president arrived 1 hour after the president had sat down. And just next to that president was his seat, which was being warmed by the Minister for Water and Irrigation, my friend Zachary Njeru. And when he showed up, he started, castigating the weather. He started castigating his means of transportation and many other things, Honorable Speaker. Yesterday, to my dismay, the deputy president took a commercial flight to Mombasa and was hauling his own bag, getting into the aircraft, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this House appropriates and budgets for travels of the deputy president, Honorable Speaker. And at no given time have we ever envisaged a situation where he takes a commercial flight. But if he takes solace out of commercial flights, then it is upon and incumbent upon this House to reduce his travels by 95%, because we know what is being charged by commercial flights and the rates that are being charged by chartered flights, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, whereas this government is barely 2 years in office, we have listened to quite disdainful statements emanating from the office of the Deputy President. And I want to ask you, Honorable Speaker, that the majority leader here present to shed more light over these issues, because they touch on us as the consumers of government services, Honorable Speaker. Whereas a lot has already been spoken about regarding sugar and the loans that were offset by the government, Honorable Speaker, just yesterday, in a cabinet meeting, 6 billion shillings owed by coffee farmers was cancelled by the cabinet, Honorable Speaker. And there is no fury about it. But when the same government cancels debts owed by government-owned sugar mills, then it becomes a matter of concern by one particular governor of Nyeri, Honorable Speaker, who has since abrogated himself the role of a spokesperson of somebody else, Honorable Speaker. You know, I've always believed that governors are so busy.
Your points.
I've always believed, Honorable Speaker, that governors are too busy to even indulge in issues holding brief for others, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, these are fundamental, germane, and salient issues that, left unchecked, have the potential to create bigger problems for this country that we all love. So I implore upon my very good friend, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, the MP for Kikuyu, to shed more light on these matters. Otherwise, if there is a real problem that the Deputy President is suffering, that as a House we can help him solve, then this is the right platform. But if he's creating, disunity and playing victim at the same time, so that a particular section of the government would go a different way, then we want to know and call him to order. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes, member for Kahawa.
Mr. Speaker, Norwaraka. Mr. Speaker, in as much as this is music to my ear, but we are slowly digressing from the business of the House. I have heard names being made here And Mr. Speaker, you are the biggest advocate of protection that persons must not be named here adversely without a substantive motion. That side has a majority, supermajority, so they say. There is nothing that stops them from dragging that Gachagua here so that they can impeach him. They can impeach him so easily by bringing him here and vote against him. So why should we divert from business of this house and enter into some charade and hypocrisy and politics instead of doing business which is before us? We know what you people are saying. We know the politics you are doing. But we also have our politics. We don't want to turn this place into a political arena. We know that this matter has been choreographed. Who doesn't know that?
Order, Honorable Kajwang. Order. Yes, that is Atandi.
Honorable Speaker, I didn't want to enter into this conversation, but Honorable Speaker, let the truth be said. The governor of Nyeri did not say anything out of this world. The governor of Nyeri was simply saying that there is no equity in sharing of national cake, and that's a fact. That when you look at the budget we have just passed here, so many sections of this country are not receiving projects. And the governor of Nyeri, as a leader elected by Nyeri residents, must fight for the welfare of Nyeri residents. So, Honorable Speaker, I think let us stem this discussion. The national cake is not being shared equitably. Most parts of this country are not receiving resources. And I want to support him. Let us not be a government that preaches unity because it is favoring us. Because if there is chaos, people who are stealing will not steal. You don't steal in chaos. You steal when there's unity. So we don't want this conversation about unity because we need unity and peace so that we can be able to steal in peace. Let us be genuine about unity. If you're talking about unity, let it be about genuine unity. You can't tell me that you are preaching unity here, but there's no development that is coming to my area. You can't tell me you want Kenyans to be united because the preaching you are giving us is for your good. So the Nyeri governor should not be discussed here, Honorable Speaker, unfairly. And I agree with him. The government must ensure equity in sharing of national cake so that all Kenyans can be happy and be peaceful and be united. You cannot be united in statements, in empty statements. Let us be united. Let us have real unity. Real unity is about how many resources, how much money is going to Siaya, vis-a-vis how much money is going to Kiambu. How much money is going to Washington vis-a-vis how much money is going to Kisumu. That is the unity that I want to hear about, not unity, empty statements about unity. I support the Nyeri governor. Thank you.
Yes, Osoro. Yes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, what is happening today, or in the recent past, started like a joke from what many considered as mere statements by very top leaders of this country. It started from statements like, the shareholders claiming that there are some communities that really did not contribute to the formation of this government, calling other people shareholders and other people traitors, and people kept quiet. But, Honorable Speaker, if this House keeps quiet, the trend this country is taking will take us back to 2007, 2008, if we are not careful. Because it started from one particular leader, then it went down to what we'll call his supporters, or he recruited some speakers or a mouthpiece to speak on his behalf. And the recent utterances, Honorable Speaker, really shocked the nation, where somebody is questioning on the division of the national cake, how it should actually be shared, that it should be shared on how people voted. I mean, this is shocking. What he did say is that if we go by that formula that he was proposing, then he should also propose that a certain section of people or a region should then not pay taxes. They should also not contribute to the national cake in terms of paying of taxes. That is exactly what the governor of Nyeri meant. And that is extremely selfish, being extremely selfish. But more important, Honorable Speaker, to what Honorable Okello has raised, yesterday was a bit embarrassing. This House passed last year's budget, 2023-2024, and they allocated funds to every arm of government. The executive got their vote, and in particular, the presidency got a budget to help them run their affairs. Every member of this House and even members of public know very well that each office is well equipped with a team of people, with a team that helps people that move around, the executive, members of the executive to move around, like His Excellency the Deputy President. It was a shame, Honorable Speaker, to see His Excellency the Deputy President moving around, carrying a bag, in as much as one wants to pull some PR stunts, and I say this, Honorable Speaker, with tremendous respect. We should question, it is about time we question the members of staff that work with His Excellency the Deputy President. Where were they when he was carrying the bag? Where were they when they were taking pictures, and some of them, of course, standing behind him as he pulled the bag, which looked very empty, Honorable Speaker. And I think it must have been bought from the airport, Honorable Speaker. Because in as much as we appreciate the fact that...
Order, Honorable Soro. I think what Jared Okello asked was legitimate. But let's not digress into discussing the conduct of the person, of the Deputy President. Jared Okello asked whether, and I saw it in the reason I allowed him to seek that statement from the majority leader is that the person of the Deputy President of this country is a responsibility of everybody. His movement to any part of the country has security implications. How he travels, who he travels with, where he goes, has security implications. So I saw it in the context that it is not a matter that is normal to see our Deputy President towing a bag on the airside to the aircraft, because you have appropriated resources to facilitate the work of the office of the presidency. That is how I understood Okello's concern. And Okello was seeking the majority leader to assure the country whether this is something subnormal or this is something that is near normal, or somebody is saying is the new normal, but in security terms, it is not normal. And that's what I expect the majority leader to tell this House. So anybody who seeks to speak to this can only confine yourself within that context. If you start discussing the personal conduct of the Deputy President, I will not allow you. Yes, KJ. What's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I was seeking to find out if the leader, the whip is in order, and you have guided so well, Mr. Speaker, on the points that we have to confine ourselves into. But the whip was also deviating into even taking a mickey on very serious professions, Mr. Speaker. He's talking about the Deputy Speaker taking a PR show to the runway. And I would like for the whip to understand that PR as a practice in itself is a very respectable profession. But most importantly, you also got to understand, Mr. Speaker, and I have to put this straight, that the Deputy President is on record saying that he is a product of the drama festival. He has acted on stage, in plays, even at the University of Nairobi, Mr. Speaker. So if he decides to put up a play, it is not the place of the whip to call him out on putting up a PR show, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Deputy President is very serious about supporting the talents in this country. Only a few days ago, Mr. Speaker, the Deputy President was there for the launch of the Bahati show, Mr. Speaker. We might have had a continuation of the same show on the side, on the runway of at JKI, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I was seeking to find out if the whip is in order to take a mickey at very serious professions, the profession of PR and public relations, the profession of actors, and even the people who chase clout for content, Mr. Speaker, for TikTok, are also doing a serious job, Mr. Speaker. So I would want you to find the whip out of order totally, Mr. Speaker, for deviating from the issues as you directed. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable members, honorable KJ. The act of a deputy president towing a travel bag on a runway is not a display of talent. And it cannot be. Yes, Osoro, wind up.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand guided, and I'll not delve into the conduct of His Excellency Deputy President. But Honorable Speaker, nothing stops any member of this House from bringing the conduct of His Excellency Deputy President, especially when it's a shame to the country, Honorable Speaker. But if it's a reality show, as Honorable KJ has said, then I think it's important for us to appreciate him and say reality shows pay, and the young people have also shown that clearly reality shows are paying. And in fact, people are saying even TikTok pays. And the very first time I saw that video, Honorable Speaker, His Excellency Deputy President towing the bag was actually on TikTok.
Honorable members, reduce your consultations. Wind up.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. So generally, Honorable Speaker, what I'm saying is that members, any public officer, any public servant, Honorable Speaker, right from the top, His Excellency the President, downwards, to all those people that have been given the privilege to serve in this country, should be careful on the utterances they make and their conduct in public. And it's at this point sometimes, Honorable Speaker, that we ask whether clearly NCIC is operational. Because at this point, we should be seeing the governor for Nyeri being summoned and questioned for his utterances against a certain community and profiling some communities as lesser human beings, Honorable Speaker. And we should also be seeing, the people raising questions on Chapter 6 of the conduct of even some members, senior members of the executive, on how they carry themselves in public. But to also applaud the Deputy President, Honorable Speaker, and appreciate him for deciding to spend less, and use a commercial flight to Mombasa. That is now what we want. That is how we move around. That he is able now to pay.
Zamzam, wind up.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Na mimi nataka nielezee wabunge wenzangu mambo yanayotendeka si mambo ya kucheka. Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi tunajua majukumu ya naibu wa rais. Na hata kama leo pengine Mheshimiwa Spika wewe pia ungefanywa hivyo, tungesimama hapa kuweza kukutetea, kwa sababu kuna bajeti ambayo imewekwa na tumemwona mara kadhaa akilalamika kuwa ndege imemwacha, ameambiwa sijui kuna hivi na vile. Kwa hiyo kuna shida katika taifa letu, na mimi naomba ikiwezekana Mheshimiwa Rais na Mheshimiwa Naibu wa Rais waweze kukaa chini, haya matatizo yaishe, kwa sababu Kenya ni yetu sisi sote. Na hata alivyoongea yule governor wa kule Nyeri, amezungumza makosa, kwa sababu ugavi wa rasilimali unafaa uende sawa katika taifa nzima, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na kama alikuwa anataka kutetea pengine naibu wa rais, asingetumia matamshi yale, kwa sababu yanazidi kuleta sintofahamu. Kama ile mashini ya miwa kule ilikuwa ni haki wao kupewa fidia kuweza kuregesha ule mtambo wa miwa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini kwa yote ile pia sisi kumuona katika ndege ambao ni abiria wa kawaida bila hata security, Mheshimiwa Spika, ilikuwa inatatiza ile image ya taifa la Kenya, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo mimi naomba, na nimeona hata wabunge katika mikutano wakizungumza, wakirusha cheche za maneno. Wakati huu Wakenya wana matatizo, bidhaa zinapanda juu. Inafaa wakati huu tuwe tunaongea juu ya finance bill, Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini tetesi ambazo zinakuja katika taifa hili wakati huu ni vipi deputy president anatembea, naibu wa rais ametembea na begi, sijui imekuwa vipi. Kama kuna matatizo, mimi naomba hasa wale ambao wako upande wa mrengo ule, sisi tulizoea matatizo yetu, manake tulipigwa mkatucheka na sasa kimewaramba. Lakini yote tisa, muweze kukaa chini, muweze kutatua matatizo yenu. Hata mkimshika leo spika wa bunge hili, kwa vile yuko mrengo ule, nione mtu anamletea na ile haki zake za kimsingi anapokonywa, kama mama Zamza, mtasimama nitazungumza, kwa sababu akipatikana yeye leo, kesho mwingine atafanziwa hivyo. Tumeona hata kule kwa rais aliyostaafu kumetokea pia tetesi. Mambo haya yanafaa yakae chini, kila mmoja apate haki yake, na tuangalie sasa maslahi ya Wakenya. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Mkunji.
Honorable Speaker, I want to weigh on this issue, and I want to be very careful. Honorable Speaker, almost everybody who is speaking on this issue is my senior in politics and my senior in many of the things that we are doing. But Honorable Speaker, I feel that I need to put in a perspective of a newcomer in politics of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, while I really don't know how this country will be in a few years, I feel like we are changing tune and we are coming out in a way that we can even mess our democracy. Honorable Speaker, I want to call upon our senior leaders to embrace speaking in the rooms, and then they come out to tell us in very clear terms what is happening and what is going in the country, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I was also very worried when I saw the Deputy President carrying his own bag. And I felt sad because if I was there, I could have carried for him the bag.
Was he carrying or towing?
He was carrying the bag, Honorable Speaker, and it looked like a bag that wouldn't fit even in the carrier side of the plane. And Honorable Speaker, I feel this is something that the majority leader must clarify to the.
I watched in the social media the Deputy President carrying a bag in the streets of Jomo Kenyatta. What struck me, Mr. Speaker, in that episode, as somebody who has traveled a lot, is the kind of bag the Deputy President was carrying. That one really struck me. That kind of bag is not for the Deputy President. That bag is for something else. Another thing that struck me in that episode is what was the content of that bag, because the Deputy President could not even give it to his bodyguard. He had to hold it himself in person, Mr. Speaker. What could have contained in that bag, Mr. Speaker? I don't know whether a committee of this parliament can get to know for us. What is the content of that bag that you cannot even trust with Ngunjiri Wambugu was behind him, that he held for me this bag, Mr. Speaker? I don't know whether Mr. Speaker, those are the two things that struck me in yesterday's episode politically. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, why are we discussing this matter here? The only place that can hold the presidency accountable is Parliament, Mr. Speaker. They are held accountable here, constitutionally. You know, Mr. Speaker, you can hold somebody accountable in the sense that if it is your responsibility to dismiss him from the job he has, then you are the only one who can hold him accountable. It is a clear provision in the Constitution that this is the House that can remove anybody who occupies those offices, Mr. Speaker, and you are a senior lawyer. Mr. Speaker, if what I am seeing, or this trend I am seeing continues, you know very well, Mr. Speaker, the Constitution says a state officer must bring honor, dignity, and respect to the office he's holding. Mr. Speaker, you cannot demean the office you are holding and you expect to attract dignity and respect. Mr. Speaker, let's call a spade a spade. If you want to politic, that is fine. If you want to go and talk in a church, in a public burial place, that is fine. But not to the extent of demeaning the office of the Deputy President. Even the office of Member of Parliament cannot be demeaned, Mr. Speaker. When some of our colleagues misbehave, we take offense. When some of our colleagues here go to burials and behave in a manner that is unbecoming, a manner that a Member of Parliament should not behave, we take offense. We say, no, we talk to them, don't behave that way. As a whip, I guide them in my office. You can't behave like this. I don't know whether the executive has a whip. The whip of the executive now must come in. I don't know whether it is the majority leader who is the whip of the executive. But a majority leader, if somebody is not interested in any job, there are Kenyans who are interested in that job. Bana. Why don't you do something? We are here to execute it. There are many Kenyans who can perform. Men and women. Many Kenyans, men and women of high standard and caliber, including, no, I don't qualify because I'm not from Kenya Kwanza. But anybody else is qualified. Mr. Speaker, you know, Mr. Speaker, the deputy presidency is a very, very critical office. In our neighboring country, the president today who's running that country was a deputy president. She was a deputy president of President Magufuli. And today she's a president of the Republic of Tanzania. So that tells you how important that office. That is not the kind of office that can be occupied by somebody who's pulling a trolley in the corridors of Jomo Kenyatta Airport. It's not possible. So, Mr. Speaker, why we are talking as a parliament, because it is here that we discuss matters of concern to the people. And surely, Deputy President pulling a trolley is of matters of concern to the public. The discussion here is, why did he use the Kenya Airways, public transport? That is neither here nor there. The issue is pulling a trolley. The issue here is, are we as a country having the presidency, giving the presidency the kind of respect that it deserves, Mr. Speaker? And I'm not absolving blame from anybody. Anybody who has not done his work, he can be held accountable. But Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by saying this. Mr. Speaker, people take these offices casually. And somebody thinks that if I become a deputy president, I cannot be held accountable by anybody. A member of parliament will hold you accountable. And the Constitution has given him that provision to hold you accountable. Any member of parliament, by the way, it doesn't matter whether you're Kenya Kwanza or Azimio, any member of parliament can hold you accountable for actions and anything that you speak. I don't want to digress because the speaker has told, let's concentrate on the context. But some of the utterances even are wanting. So, Mr. Speaker, personally as a member of parliament, and you know, some of us, we might not have become deputy presidents, or we may not occupy high offices, but now we are senior members of the country, because some of those people, we have served more terms of parliament than them. They know that. I have been in this parliament more than those people. They know themselves. I don't want to mention names. I am now serving the third term, and people came here one term and sijui jua ilitoka wapi kabulika hawa sasa hawa ni namna hiyo tu, na sisi bado tumebaki tu kama kuku hapa ndani ya town. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say this, that let us respect the offices we are holding. If you have grievances, deal with your grievances in a manner that befits the office you are holding, and don't bring shame to the country. Don't bring shame to our country. And when you want to divide the country and you want to separate people, nobody will accept that. Nobody will allow that. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I want to say, please, for those people who are very close friends of our friend, please buy him another bag. That bag cannot go on. If next trip, I want to see a better bag. KJ, please. Thank you very much.
Majority Leader, you've heard the concerns of members. Wanjala, what is it? I've given the Majority Leader an opportunity to tell the House the concerns of members, and I want to repeat. Sit down, Wanjala. The conduct of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya is not under discussion here. The issue raised by Jared Okello was very clear. The office of the Deputy President, the whole of the office, as
transportation, Honorable Speaker, both for fixed airwing, aircraft, for helicopters, and even if the Deputy President opted to travel by sea, there are adequate resources for him to travel by sea, by SGR, or even by coast bus to any other bus, Honorable Speaker. Let me also say, Honorable Speaker, it is not unusual, because I don't know why anybody would think it's unusual for the Deputy President to travel with our national carrier, Kenya Airways. Honorable Speaker, I have witnessed holders of that office in the person of William Ruto, our current president, use not just Kenya Airways. In fact, last week when he traveled to South Korea, he took a commercial airliner to South Korea to and fro. The only difference is that he never posed for any photograph anywhere. I have also witnessed when he was deputy president, William Ruto traveled not just on Kenya Airways, but used jumbo jets to Mombasa, to Eldoret. He has used Skyward and Renegade, and the other, not 540, there's another airline that Safari Link to Masai Mara. And therefore, it is not unusual. I think the only unusual thing that happened yesterday, Honorable Speaker, and maybe that may have gotten the attention of the Honorable Jared Okello, was the Deputy President towing a bag, a new bag, brand new bag, as the Honorable Junet says, that could not even fit into the compartments in the aeroplane, towing the bag and posing for a photograph. But unfortunately, I think, Honorable Speaker, on matters touching on security, the Deputy President was also very well secured yesterday, and I can confirm that to the country. He had with him not less than 19 bodyguards, 14 of whom he was to travel with on that aircraft. Therefore, he had no problems with people to carry his bags. Let nobody think that the Deputy President had problems on people to carry his bags. He had not less than 3 photographers to take the photographs, Honorable Speaker.
Majority. Yes, Junet, what's the point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I wish to ask the majority leader whether he's correctly saying that a plane that was to carry 60 people, 14 were supposed to be bodyguards of the Deputy President in that plane. Can you tell the Parliament in broad daylight that 14 were members of his security detail out of 60 members, a third of the plane, and cameramen and the other things?
Honorable Speaker, the information I have, the Deputy President did not just appear for the photograph. The Deputy President was driven to the airside with his full security detail, including the presidential guards that guard him from the Wrecker Squad. They were there with him. There were adequate, not less than 14 officers traveling with him on that plane, including photographers, security men, bloggers, protocol people, including the former MP for Nyeri, who I hear is a chief blogger in that office now, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I was just making the point that the Deputy President was not short of staff and personnel to carry his bags, including photographers who are taking those photos, Honorable Speaker, and therefore his security was not in question at all. True, Honorable Speaker, in terms of the dignity and honor that comes with that office, Honorable Speaker, I think the Deputy President had this flight paid for by the government of Kenya using taxpayers' money. And to give his office the honor and dignity, those who are keen observers did observe he was seated on seat 1A of that flight. The chief blogger in his office, the former member for Nyeri, was seated on seat 2A. That's in the business class, Honorable Speaker. And others, including his security officers, I think 2 are seated in the business class with him, and many others were seated in the economic compartment. And therefore, let me assure the country that the Deputy President within that flight was very safe. There is nothing unusual in him taking commercial flights. Indeed, many of you who attended the National Prayer Breakfast will remember His Excellency the President affirming that out of the austerity measures that government has instituted and which he effected through the Supplementary Appropriations Bill, that his office, that of the Deputy President and that of the Prime Cabinet Secretary had cut their budget substantially. And therefore, I only want to encourage the President, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, the Deputy President, when they travel, to bear in mind those austerity measures, but at least to reduce the delegations, if not anything. I am certain nothing would happen to you when you are up there in the skies. Therefore, 1 or 2 security officers might be adequate. You do not need 3 or 4 photographers to travel with you on that plane. You can send some by SGR or others to drive to Mombasa. Therefore, I want to encourage all our government officers to bear in mind that we are in a tough situation and austerity measures that government has instituted, including Parliament, Honorable Speaker. I was pleasantly surprised the other day when I saw members of Parliament carpooling to travel to Naivasha because they thought it was easier to hold their meeting where they were holding and carpool. And Honorable Speaker, this should be the spirit, Honorable Speaker, but also, Honorable Speaker, more importantly, because I have seen these questions being raised, especially by bloggers, is the Deputy President entitled to use of military aircraft? Honorable Speaker, I did engage the Cabinet Secretary for Defense, and indeed I have asked, Honorable Speaker, so that we may put this matter to rest, I will be writing to the Cabinet Secretary for Defense to appear before this House in plenary that only the President and the First Lady, the President as Commander-in-Chief, since we don't have a Deputy Commander-in-Chief, has access to military aircraft. The Deputy President has a police aircraft designated for his use, which currently is under maintenance, and the Cabinet Secretary tells me in the next few weeks they will have finalized with its maintenance, because it is not just a police aircraft that is maintained by government, but whenever the Deputy President is flying that aircraft for his safety and security, bearing in mind the office he holds, is usually flown and operated by Kenya Air Force pilots and servicemen, Honorable Speaker, so that we can assure the Deputy President's safety, assure the country of the Deputy President's safety. Honorable Speaker, when the Kenya Kwanza government took over, I am also informed, Honorable Speaker, our defense forces would occasionally allow senior government officers to use their aircrafts at times on request. And ordinarily, government policy is when any senior government officer like the Deputy President or the Prime Cabinet Secretary intends to use a military aircraft, because these aircraft are designated for operational work by the military, to request for use of a particular aircraft, whether it's a helicopter or a Dash 8 or a fixed-wing aircraft, through the office of the head of public service, Felix Kosgei. Honorable Speaker, let me put it on record because I have checked those facts. The day that the Honorable Okello refers to on Madaraka Day, the office of the Deputy President never, because I would not know why he decided to get late, because either way you could also choose, like the Honorable Speaker chose, to go and spend the night in Bungoma or in Kisumu and be near the function, or wake up early like many of us did to travel. The same with the incident that the Honorable Jared Okello speaks to this Sunday in Nakuru at the Akorino Church. It is true, the Deputy President arrived over an hour later than the President. The President was magnanimous and courteous enough to be able to receive his deputy. And, Honorable Speaker, I can also confirm, because I was to join you in Laikipia, we left Nairobi at exactly the same time with the Deputy President at about 10:44 a.m. when his chopper was lifting from his current residence. Honorable Speaker, we traveled together. There was a slight challenge with the weather, I can confirm, Honorable Speaker, around Mount Longonot. And we were able to maneuver through within a period that did not exceed 5 minutes. as to why the Deputy President chose to tell the country that he had transport and weather challenges, Honorable Speaker, on the pulpit in church. Again, I would not be able to be in a position to tell why the person serving in the office of a Deputy President would choose to tell what is not true while standing at a pulpit in a church, Honorable Speaker. And since, Honorable Speaker, you have guided, we are not here to discuss the conduct of any person. I do not want to dwell into that. But to assure the country that both the President, the Deputy President, the Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, from what the Minister for Defense has informed me, may, in writing, ask for use of military aircraft. And Honorable Speaker, the Defense Cabinet Secretary did inform me that for the last 1 year, the aircraft that were being used by the Deputy President, the Prime Cabinet Secretary's office, and other senior government officers occasioned an expenditure of $500 million shillings, 500 million shillings to KDF. KDF has written to the various offices, and the office of the Deputy President has written back declining to share in the costs of the wear and tear and fuel of these aircrafts. And that is why the Kenya Defense Forces and the Ministry of Defense made a policy decision that should any officer want to use military aircraft, it must be on request, since all these offices have resources appropriated to them for air travel. Therefore, if you use a Kenya Defense aircraft for fuel, for wear and tear, you pay for it from the budget in your office. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, should cry foul that they have not been allowed to use military aircraft. Only the President, as Commander-in-Chief, has unfettered access to use of military aircraft, but that aircraft that is designated from the Kenya Police, that is under maintenance, and I must insist, that maintenance, Honorable Speaker, you've seen what has happened in our neighboring country and our compatriots in Malawi, and may the Lord rest the soul of the Vice President of Malawi and the people who perished in the air crash, in internal peace, Honorable Speaker. We would not fathom that happening to any of the officers serving in our government. And you remember, Honorable Speaker, I'm also informed many of those aircrafts, including the ones used by the President, were put to a rigorous maintenance program following the unfortunate incident where we lost our Chief of Defense Forces. And therefore,
disrespect us in other constituencies and expect us to maintain the respect that we have accorded you for the last 2 years. Respect is earned. It is not demanded. It is not coerced.
You've made
it is
your
not
information.
Enforced. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Wind up. Wind up, Majority.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Allow me to end up, Honorable Speaker, by just saying, I was saying, Honorable Speaker, just as the Honorable DMM has said, that as national leaders, let us earn our respect. Let us not demean other leaders. Let us not coerce. Let us not intimidate other leaders. And more importantly, Honorable Speaker, let us not seek to blackmail anybody, whether it's members of parliament, whether it's government institutions, or any other officer serving in government, Honorable Speaker. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, as leader of majority, I have said it elsewhere, and I'll repeat it on this floor, Honorable Speaker. I will never, for the time the Almighty God will give me the opportunity to serve in the office of leader of majority, allow anybody to demean any member of parliament, whether you are in the minority, in the majority, whether you come from the same village with somebody or not. I will never sit back, and I will protect the rights of all members of parliament as their leader and as a leader in this house, Honorable Speaker, because in doing so, I believe I am protecting the dignity of not only this house, Honorable Speaker, and individual members, but the dignity and honor of the people who have elected these members of parliament. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I may commit that I will be writing to the Cabinet Secretary of Defense to answer more substantially to the issues raised by the Honorable Jared Okema.
Thank you. As you do so, the Honorable Minority Leader has requested me to give him a minute on this, and he will be the very last. And take into account what he will say in what you intend to...
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I really didn't want to speak to this, but I think it is my duty to raise my voice on such a weighty matter. Honorable Speaker, let me start by saying that it is not in our place as Azimio coalition in the House. It's not part of our responsibility to meddle in the affairs of the executive or to attempt to provide solutions to the executive. But Honorable Speaker, as I said earlier on, there can only be one government for the Republic of Kenya at any one given time. Honorable Speaker, there can only be one government for the Republic of Kenya at any one given time. And therefore, a dysfunctioning government, regardless of who has formed that government, affects every citizen. What we are seeing here is the making of a dysfunctioning government. That is what I have to say first. But second, Honorable Speaker, as students of history, we are told that history repeats itself. First, as a farce, and second, as a tragedy. Honorable Speaker, you will recall what happened in this country in the year 1989 or thereabout, when the then Vice President, Dr. Josephat Njuguna Karanja, was hounded out of office on account of becoming too big, of making fellow leaders to kneel before him. He became a kneel before me Vice President. Honorable Speaker, at one point, he actually purported to be the acting president when President Moi was around still. Honorable Speaker, I don't want to say who was right or wrong. Likewise, I don't want to say who is right or wrong in the present instance, because I don't belong to Kenya Kwanza. But let me say this. Honorable Speaker, the Kenya Kwanza government has got a duty now to govern. But you also owe Kenyans a duty to give them a functioning government, a functional government. And therefore, anything that can create dysfunction in government must be sorted out as quickly as possible. Honorable Speaker, you know, when a hyena wants to eat its children, he starts saying that they smell like a goat. Honorable Speaker, I don't know who is the hyena here, who is the goat here. But Honorable Speaker, something is definitely not working. Honorable Speaker, from where we sit as Azimio members, we see a situation where
thousands. B, in paragraph A, by deleting the words 326,022,000 and substituting therefore the words 302 million.
Court of law. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable members, I now put the